So, the buzz going around right now is that Nicki Minaj might be kicking her husband out. Over the past week, fans have been glued to their screens because the talk is everywhere. People are saying that Nicki's marriage with Kenneth Petty is hitting some real trouble. It's not just one source either. Big outlets like Media Takeout and The Cheat Sheet have been covering it, and the conversation has spilled over to TikTok where it's blowing up. People are making videos, leaving comments, and sharing their takes nonstop. Everywhere you look, the topic seems to circle back to Nicki and her husband's rocky relationship.
Around the curb is Nicki Minaj is throwing her husband out because he's been cheating. He's been cheating allegedly. Now, I'm not in these people's eyes. I don't know how true this is. But they said that Nicki Minaj's husband been cheating while he was away, like while she was away on tour. He was cheating, having, paying and other stuff like that. And they also said that he's been cheating here and there. He's been on his Safari, okay? Bad, real bad. And they saying Nicki is over it. Nicki's tired of him. Nicki threw his clothes out. He got her doing all these legal fees and, all of this because of him. And he got the nerve and the audacity to cheat. So I don't know how true that is, but if it is true, Nicki, cut that down.
So there's this woman online who's trying to give Nicki Minaj some advice. She's careful with her words, though, making sure to say allegedly, probably because she doesn't want to flat out confirm the rumor as true. But here's the thing. She's not the only one talking like this. And that matters because Nicki's husband, Kenneth Petty, has a heavy past. He's been to prison not just for a serious assault case, but also for manslaughter. Now think about it. Nicki is out here taking care of him financially because he doesn't really have steady work or any positive reputation to fall back on. So every time he makes a wrong move, it ends up affecting her too. And what exactly does that mean for Nicki? Let me break it down.
Recent new mugshots of Nicki Minaj's husband, Kenneth Petty, has surfaced on the internet and other social media pages. And since he is a convicted offender, it is mandatory that he takes a new mugshot every 3 months so it can be posted on the offender's website and also sent to his neighbors in the community that him and Nicki Minaj reside.
So here's the reality. Every few months, Kenneth Petty has to go through this legal process. The people living around him have to be notified about who he is and what he's done. And honestly, imagine how humiliating that must feel, especially if you're Nicki Minaj. We're talking about one of the biggest superstars on the planet. She's worth hundreds of millions, she sells out arenas across the world, and she constantly reminds people that she's on top. And yet, this is the man by her side. Not just her partner, this is her husband, the father of her child. Now, I've noticed something. When women give advice to each other, it's often straightforward. If he's cheating, if he's dragging you down, if he's dead weight, cut him off. Simple as that. And a lot of people feel Nicki's situation falls right into that category. But then I sit back and think about Nicki's choices over the years. She's had chances with men who, at least on paper, seem to bring more to the table. Safari, yeah, he wasn't perfect, but he had potential. They shared cultural roots, being Caribbean, and he actually helped build some of her career. Then there was Meek Mill, a big-name rapper with his own success. And then Kenneth Petty. Some people argue that the reason Nicki chose Kenneth is simple, because she can control him. He's the kind of man who will put up with things others might not. And here's where it gets interesting. Women often talk about men being dead weight in a relationship. But sometimes, they don't stop to think that maybe they're the ones bringing the dead weight. Think about it like this. If you're Nicki Minaj, one of the biggest female rappers in the world, constantly comparing yourself to legends like Beyoncé, but you can't seem to find your own Jay-Z, then maybe the issue isn't always the man. If the only partner you can settle with is a guy carrying so much baggage, then it raises the question, who's really holding who back? And this isn't just about Nicki. More and more wealthy, famous women are choosing a similar path. They either end up with men they can fully control, or they swing in a completely different direction, dating younger guys. We've seen it plenty of times. Tracee Ellis Ross, Drea Michelle, Amber Rose, they've all been linked to younger men. And the narrative becomes, let's uplift these younger guys. Why? Well, some believe it's because younger men usually don't have as much life experience. Sure, they may be more open-minded, but the real advantage is that the woman feels like she has the upper hand in terms of maturity and intelligence. Compared to being with a man her own age, it can feel easier to lead the dynamic when dating someone younger. Here's what I mean. When an older woman dates a younger man, sometimes she's given a level of respect that she hasn't really earned. And I'm not trying to be harsh, but it's worth thinking about. That younger guy often doesn't fully understand why men closer to her age have chosen not to deal with her. Take Kenneth Petty, for example. From his perspective, this situation is a dream. If he wasn't married to Nicki Minaj, he'd likely still be back in Queens, stuck on the block, broke, with no real opportunities. His future would look bleak, but now, he's flying across the world, living in luxury, benefiting from Nicki's fame and money. He knows this, and it shapes his behavior. Anytime he wants to act out or speak against Nicki, he has to stop and remind himself that without her, he has nothing to fall back on. But when you look at her past relationships, Safari and Meek Mill, it's a completely different story. If Nicki talked down to them, they could walk away without hesitation. Safari could find someone new. Meek could find someone new. And both of them have moved on to partners who match their own lifestyle and success. That's the difference. Men don't need to date a woman who makes more money than them to feel validated. But for Nicki, despite all her wealth and success, she chose a man with no career, no status, and no stability. That says a lot. And this is where the advice women give each other gets messy. People often say, "Girl, you should find someone on your level, someone who gives you good energy." But if that's true, why did Nicki choose Kenneth Petty in the first place? That's the question so many avoid. At the end of the day, you attract what you put out into the world. And that's something a lot of women don't want to hear, but it's the reality. When you carry yourself in a certain way, you've got to realize something. Ladies, the way you present yourself often determines the kind of men you attract. If your whole look is built around surgeries like a BBL, and you're always dressed super provocative, rocking loud-colored wigs, blonde today, neon green tomorrow, bright orange next week, most men aren't going to take that seriously. Now, of course, there are exceptions. But the truth is, men who have real careers, men who are business-minded, men outside the entertainment bubble, they usually want something solid. They prefer natural or classic styles. Black hair, brown hair, or even a weave that actually looks like it could be your real hair, that works. But once it starts looking unnatural, once it feels like everything is fake, it sends a different message. And let's be real, it's not just the look. Sometimes it comes with an attitude that a man with real opportunities doesn't want to deal with. Sure, he might tolerate it for a while if he's in love or if he hopes things will change. But after a point, the effort isn't worth the headache. So here's where Nicki Minaj's choice stands out. She ended up with Kenneth Petty, a man with a criminal record who spent much of his life behind bars. This is someone who's been caught up in drama, even threatening people like Offset. And if that's the kind of man you choose to build a life with, can you really expect him to suddenly turn into the picture of loyalty? Now, let's be fair. Cheating can come from anyone, not just someone who's been in prison. But when you choose a partner with that kind of history, those risks become part of the package. And that's the reality Nicki has tied herself to. And here's the thing. Nicki ended up with Kenneth because deep down, she wanted control. With Meek Mill, she couldn't fully have that. With Safari, she couldn't fully have that. But with Kenneth, she finally has the upper hand. And when someone feels like they've got the power in the relationship, they start using it. That's what happens in a lot of these situations. Women get with guys they know they can dominate. They enjoy the physical side, they enjoy the convenience. But the moment he tries to speak up or assert himself, it's a quick threat. I'll put you out. Sleep on the couch. Sleep on the floor. I'll go upstairs, I'll go do my own thing, and let's be real. Men in that position end up getting talked down to, yelled at, treated like they're disposable. If you could actually hear the conversations between Nicki Minaj and Kenneth Petty behind closed doors, do you think it sounds respectful? Probably not. Because at the end of the day, this is not a man she can look up to. Think about it. You're Nicki Minaj, you've built an empire worth hundreds of millions. You're selling out arenas worldwide. And then you look at the man by your side, a man who hasn't accomplished even a fraction of that. How could you honestly respect him as your equal? When life gets stressful, when the pressure of fame and family hits her, do you really think she looks at Kenneth as her partner in strength? Or does she look at him and wonder, where would I be if I never met you? Because let's be honest, he's not elevating her life, he's simply surviving in it. So that's the reality, and it's something people don't want to say out loud. But the truth is, Nicki will never see Kenneth Petty as her equal, no matter how long they stay together. Anyway, that's my breakdown of the situation. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This is your boy Jackson with another episode of the Celebrity Drunk. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you soon.